What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another GGF video, and today we're going to be taking a quick look at the PowerColor Red Devil. This is the Spectral White 9070 XT. Now, this card isn't by all means new. I think it's 3 or 4 months old, but I finally got my hands on one. I've been wanting to use this in a few builds, somewhere where I need a really nice white GPU that I don't need to water block it. But in saying that, there is a water block available for this card. Edelkrone does have one, and it is the same PCB as the non-white edition, the normal Red Devil. So if you have either version, you can get the water block for that. So pretty much we're going to go through, see what the card looks like. I'm probably going to pull it apart because PowerColor have gone to a lot of attention to detail to make this card completely white. But first off, the boxes PowerColor do on their Red Devils are always really, really nice. Same on there, same on there. So they go to that little bit of extra to do a nice box, folds out like that. And they also have a Hellbound edition as well that's all white. And I don't just mean things like the shroud and the fans, also the connectors, even the heatsink is all white as well. Nice little, there we go, card on there on the back, all of the specs and all that. But I'm sure if you're buying this card, you've probably done some research and you know what all the specs are. We have this new Hellstone lighting on sort of the butt end of the card. So the idea behind the Hellstone lighting is to represent forged crystals. I'll see if I can get some shots on their website of what that actually looks like. Obviously, I don't have a PC to throw all this in now. They actually use a thermal pad on the core instead of thermal paste. We'll have a look at that when we pull it apart. I believe that's a Honeywell PTM 7950. So we'll see how that is. But inside the box, there's a lot here. So normally PowerColor with these, they kind of do special editions, but I believe this is not a special run limited edition. You can just pick this up off any of your standard retailers, well, most of them. So in the box, we have this cool little thing here. This here, if I can get a shot on that. This is a keychain, so it's basically the GPU again in a miniature size. You could leave it in this little cling wrap and just put it on your desk. Like if I have this, move this out of the way, get it in this shot. If I have this just sitting here like that, it kind of looks like it's floating, which looks pretty cool. Get that out of the way. Rest of the gear, we get this sticker. Pretty crazy out there. Weird that it's like red and all that. I guess Red Devil, but they could have made it white. Now, all of the most of this gear here is a GPU holder. I'm just going to quickly see if I can work out how this goes. Goes like this. This will then go like this. It does have a lot of cling wrap on it and film. I won't take that off. And this. Undo this little clamp. So this is one that's designed to just freestand on your case. This is probably a magnetic base. Then you push this. I am putting it over the cling wrap. It's probably not designed to go over that cling wrap. So that will go like that. And then you could do it like that. That's pretty much it, like that. And then you can adjust this up and down, and that's it. So when GPU manufacturers do the freestanding ones like this, they can't really do any of the ones that mount onto like the chassis physically at like the motherboard tray wall, because they don't really know what case you're going to use. So the ones that comes with the cases are normally best. But when it comes to GPU manufacturers, this is probably the best option they can do, because they have to try and think of a generic solution for all the cases that are out there. They give you another one of these. In the photo, they see them running 2. I don't see why you'd need 2. Obviously, if you're running 2 GPUs for some reason, but I very much doubt someone's going to do that. This here is a tool to eject the card from your slot. Now, it's 2025. Nearly every motherboard I've used has some type of built-in ejection mechanism on the motherboard, whether it's the quick release, whether it's on an ROG board, they don't even have it. You just tilt the GPU and out it comes. So you probably don't really need that, but you can still keep that in case you do. Then we have the card here itself. I'm just checking to see if there's anything else in the bottom. Nope, that is it. This last thing is an ARGB to your motherboard. So it looks like, if I can see, yes, it does right here. So it's got RGB offload, so you can control it via your motherboard, or you can just leave this and you can install their software, and then away you go. You can just control it with their software. I'm going to quickly take all these off so we can see exactly how the card looks without any reflections and so on. Okay, now that took a very long time. Peel was everywhere in all of these areas here on the back, on that forged sort of area where the RGB lighting is. You can see that. But yeah, very nice looking card. It's not that big, I would say. I'm so used to using a lot of the new NVIDIA cards. This is actually the first AMD, the recent one that from the 9070 series that I've actually used. It's, by comparison to a lot of the NVIDIA cards, quite small. It is a 3 slot. We had 3 8-pin power, none of the 12 volt high power. Want to know your thoughts? Do you prefer how AMD is sticking to this type of power source, or do you prefer the 12 volt? I pretty much probably know the answer to that. But in saying that, not all AMDs are using this power solution. Some of the newer cards are also switching to the 12 volt high power, so you got to also be mindful of that. That all because you go with AMD, you're not always going to get the 2 or the 3 8-pin for the power. Something I noticed on these newer AMD cards, the die is so close to the actual 16 by 16 PCI Express connector. You can see it there. It is like millimeters away from the edge. Most of the times, the older AMDs or NVIDIAs, it's normally sort of in the middle. I can only assume that would be better for like signal tracing because it's right near the bus. But I don't know, it just seems to just catch me how it's so close to the edge. So I also want to know your thoughts if I should do a build based on this card. I did a build, I'd say a couple of years ago on the 7900 XTX Red Devil. I think I used an in-wind chassis. I'm actually thinking of just using that same case because I got a lot of things laser cut to match the Red Devil sort of logos. I'm wondering if I should do that all in white and throw this card in, do a CPU loop and just try and theme it really nicely. I could use something like the ASRock, the latest Aqua motherboard. That's kind of white and silver. Let me know if you want to see something like that. It looked pretty cool. Of course, I would leave this card air cooled. I'm not going to water block it because we do want to see this card in all its glory. And I also noticed that the non-white version of this card, the normal Red Devil, which is all black and red, there is a backplate version of that card. So when I mean the backplate version, both of this one and the other one comes with a backplate, but they give you fancy backplates. I'm not sure if it's 1 or 2 or 3. I know on the 7900 XTX, they did 3. I think it might be 1. You get this fancy backplate to go on top. I noticed the white version does not do that. It'd be pretty sweet if the white version did come with that white backplate because it's got different triangular designs and polygons, and it just gives it that bit of a extra 3D sort of depth to it than rather just a flat backplate. For those who are interested on some of the specs, stream processors are 4096. Video memory, of course, is 16 gigabytes of GDDR6. Memory speed is 20 gigabits on a 256 megabit bus. Now, of course, there are 2 BIOS modes here. We have the OC and then the standard, which is silent. And at the moment, it is in the OC, which I would expect. Clocks for those is for the OC, it's 2520 in game mode and then 3060 in boost. And then in the standard, it's 2460 megahertz in game and then 3010 in the boost. So it looks like you're getting about 50 megahertz more in the OC mode when you flick that over. I said it's 3 slot, 3-pin, max resolution. You're looking at 7680 by 4320. And then on here, I might actually remove all these so I can get a better idea on exactly what they are. 3 DisplayPort, 1 HDMI, which is probably all you need. So what I want to do now is I do want to pull this apart and we can see sort of inside a little bit more, because if you could see before, like everything is white in there, all white there. PCB is all white. Now, it used to only be back in the day. I don't even think AMD ever did any white. I know only some limited edition NVIDIA cards had a full white PCB. Not everything came in a white PCB because, of course, it's going to cost more to get that extra sort of coating on the PCB, and a little bit more engineering has to be done. So I'm going to pull this apart. Okay, that has been pulled apart now. Now, whenever you pull a card apart, I probably should have tested this first, but I have taken this straight. This was the first time I took it out of the box. Actually, the second time. The first time I took this out of the box was to just take it out of the anti-static bag, then I put it straight into the packaging. So always test the card first if you're gonna do this. I didn't, but it is what it is. And then secondly, always take your time pulling it apart. Sometimes there's screws on the back you can miss, and then you probably notice that there's all these other screws that are fed from the inside. You don't need to take them off because they are part of the back plate. So normally you just need to take the ones around the die. There's normally a few more, then you can take the card off, and then if you want to put a block on, you then have access to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and probably 7 to get to the rim of the back plate if you do want to put a water block on. You might be wondering why these two aren't here. They've come off on the cooler. So not all thermal pads are going to come off on the PCB, and then not all the ones are going to come off on the heatsink. They might vice versa. And then if you're putting a water block on, put all of these back onto the air cooler, keep them all there, keep all the screws in a bag, because if you do want to sell the card later on, it's probably best to put the air cooler back on and you can sell it a little bit easier, because no doubt you'll be using the thermal pads that come with the water block. Now I just noticed that it looks like it is thermal paste. I'm going to just go quickly back on the website because I'm pretty sure it said it was a thermal pad for the die. So I just had a quick look online. So the spec site for this card, so it is running the Honeywell PTM 7950. It is a high performance superconductive phase change material, PCM, and apparently it's in the middle ground between thermal paste and liquid metal. So it is a pad. Whether or not this is using it, this 100% looks like thermal paste. Maybe it's like a pad when it goes on, and then when it changes, it turns. Actually, that is kind of hard. So maybe it is the actual pad, but it just looks very, very similar to thermal paste. I will put that, I'll reach out to PowerColor and see if they might have changed it, if they're still using it, but that does look like thermal paste. But then when I touch it, it is very, very hard. And the reason why they've gone with this pad is it ensures that the micro gaps are filled when you do mount this onto the cooler, and it can apparently enhance the thermal efficiency. But I've always known that thermal paste has been pretty good. Liquid metal is better, but it's always a little bit finicky when the user comes to have to sort of reapply that and put that on themselves. So this is the cooler. I don't need to take the back plate off actually, because it's all we need to see. There's white on the back. We probably don't need to go any further than that on the PCB. All white, and we'll get a close up on that. And let me know your thoughts. Is this the right direction for, say, more companies to start doing full white products, or you don't really care, just things like the shroud is enough? Even some brands, it's very hard to get white anything when it comes to like the cooler, the fans, anything like that. But it's good to start seeing more brands, especially from AMD. It'll be interesting to see the next series of AMD's cards. There's been stories that AMD aren't gonna sort of compete with NVIDIA in the high-end market. There's been stories recently that AMD have changed their minds. They're gonna come back with another card to compete. I don't know, it's always changing. I never really listen to anything until I see something official from AMD. You can see all the heat pipes there. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I believe I can see. And they are all white as well. I don't think I've ever really seen white heat pipes, especially on a GPU. But yeah, that's the card there. I ran through all of that. There's also RGB on the back. It looks like you're gonna get some really nice RGB effects because it's also on the back plate. You can see the little flat pad there that the contacts go to. It's gonna glow on that logo. I'm really thinking now, I really wanna do a build just on this card. See, obviously vertically mounting it, you're gonna have this, you're not gonna see the back now. That's gonna be towards your motherboard. I'm thinking now, normal mounting horizontal, you're gonna see the top back plate there, and then you're also going to see the butt end of the card, which has that forged sort of RGB lighting on the back there. It is a large RGB area, so whenever you do have a large RGB area, it normally looks very, very overexposed. So I'm gonna have to drop the brightness down very, very low, just so you don't get the whole beaming area of light on the back there. The last thing, when it comes to price on this card, has been out for a little while, so it might not be too important, but the price of this card is $899 US, which I think is about the same price as the non-white one. So they're not charging an arm and a leg for an exclusive white model. But I think that's it on this video. I've covered everything I wanted to cover. Actually, one last thing I wanted to cover was the power design. It's a 12+1 power design. You can see, actually even notice the chokes are white. So you can see the chokes are the larger ones here. That's say the R15, if you can even see that down there. And then there's the thermal pad stuck on that one. So it's good that this thermal pad came off. It's actually on the cooler here, so we can see more of these chokes. The FETs are under there. They're normally black. I don't think you're going to get things like white memory modules, white MOSFETs and all that stuff, but having the white chokes looks super cool as well. But yeah, anyway, $8.99. Really keen to do this build node. Let me know if you do want to see that in the future. But I want to thank PowerColor for sending this out for me to use in some builds. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.